What segment is the best for gravity?
Come here.
Well, if you look at the potential, I think the Dutch tomato. If you serious about doing business with the Netherlands, then I think that the tomato industry is by far the best in the Netherlands, most advanced. So if you can, if you think about like return on investment and getting a competitive edge, then tomatoes I think is a feeling, but I think that has the most potential.
これってここに置いて大丈夫ですか？捨てやっていいですか？はい。
It's updated. Right. Is the lady the friend from Tochikura?
Tochikura, Mr. Tochikura?
Hi. Last week.
Oh, last week he came here.
So, is she coming or no? Is she coming?
She? Who's she?
No, Tochikura's friend.
Tochikura's friends.
Last week.
Oh,
lady
last week she came here.
Yeah.
Oh, I don't know.
Okay. Then probably not, eh?
Woman is always like that.
One time.
Not one time, but it's, we can guess what she is thinking about.
Right.
So.
Okay. 高橋さんいる?
Today he
came back to Tokyo.
Oh!
He is
family service.
Yes, right.
Right.
No, I already done. Finished.
Epson software updater.
What are you doing?
I think that can go off, no?
What are you doing? What are you doing?
I'm looking at stuff what can get off of your taskbar. I think this is open.
What are you doing here?
I think we can close it. Huh? Epson software updater. No, that doesn't matter.
What are you trying to open?
No, close it.
Close this?
I'm looking at what you have open. It seems to be a lot.
Yeah.
Okay. Screencast-O-Matic. Boom. Hey, are you recording?
Yeah, already.
Oh. Yeah. Maybe we can start again.
No, it's okay.
Yeah, okay.
I'm going to get it out.
Okay. All right. Good afternoon. Today is May 19th, Saturday, May 19th. We are here gathered with a all Tokyo team today. Yeah, Kimoto-san, Uno-san, and yours truly. And we're doing the final installment of new technology and the future of Japan. It has become a long series. We talked about third industrial revolution. Last week we focused on employment issues. Okay, so what will be the consequences of this new technology for employment? And basically, it is forecasted that new technology will reduce our total workload by 30 to 40%, and not everybody will be affected equally. There will be low-skilled workers with relatively high wages that will be the first victims. But that's not it. All across the board, jobs will be lost. I remember last week we were talking about lawyers, accountants. We were talking about drivers. These are all jobs that can relatively easily be replaced. And especially when you talk about lawyers and accountants, the average income of an accountant in the US is $60,000. these jobs will be targeted by automation, and these jobs will become superfluous. So that will have effects. It's very likely that these kind of high-skilled workers will find ways to actually maintain employability, because there are all kinds of indirect functions that within their job that they may actually keep on doing. Example we talked about last week was, for example, medical specialists who are currently interpreting MRI scans. That work will probably be much quicker and better done by computers. But when it comes to dealing with patients, that's still a person-to-person job. So there are options for these specialists to still keep on doing some kind of a job. But overall, the tasks, the workload will most likely decrease, which leads to unemployment, but also leads to more time on our hands. So less work to do. So briefly concluding basically where we left off last week, just 2 slides. So 30 to 40% of the traditional work is expected to be displaced. People in high demand, architecting creative solutions in all domains. Entrepreneurship, art, governance, teaching, demand for deep technical skills, creativity, and learnability, more temporary contract work. But when I talk about, for example, teaching, a lot of changes will require a lot of teaching. Think about the introduction of the personal computer. One reason why it actually generated jobs was that people need to learn how to work with these machines. A lot of people will have to be retrained, so there will be need for education. On the other hand, there is also a large supply of educational materials available online today, where I'm currently following a course that was taken by 225,000 people. So that is enormous. So there also you can achieve economies of scale. Make a course once, and it can be taken by a lot of different people. Entrepreneurship, art, those are jobs that are creative by nature. It's very difficult to train a computer to be an entrepreneur. There are certain you can train a computer. You can be trained by a computer how to read a financial statement, a balance sheet, profit and loss statement. That's easy. But to be an entrepreneur, to be sensitive and creative, that's very difficult to learn by a computer. And so therefore these kinds of skills will be in high demand. Teaching deep technical skills, because we still need to make these programs that leverage the power of this new technology, and creativity. And so when we talk about creativity, I think last week we discussed that it's probably the music composer will be in much higher demand than the music producer. Almost anybody can very easily use programs to produce music. The tools are out there. People can do it very easily, but it's the people who are creative to actually create this kind of music. Like you have these DJs now, very, very popular. They attract stadiums full of people, and they basically have very, very limited means at their disposal. They don't play an instrument; they just play music and put samples together. But that the creativity behind it is what will remain in high demand. What kind of jobs will we lose? Are you okay with the sound?
Mm.
Yeah?
Okay.
Okay. So the jobs that will be lost: accountants, hotel receptionists, software testers, manual software testers, analysts, financial reporters, updating data and creating reports from data, medical diagnostics, assembly workers, legal and financial advisory, middlemen, brokers, etc. There's a lot. There's a lot of jobs in this, and it's far from complete. It doesn't contain drivers. It doesn't contain shop staff. There are a lot of current jobs that are currently very normal and widely held that are being directly threatened by automation, AI, robotics, accountants. Accounting basically is a process of automating of organizing data. That's very easily done by a computer. Hotel receptionists. Okay, what is the added value here? Can't we do that much easier? Just send an email with a QR code. When you arrive at the desk, you can check yourself in. It should not be so hard. So hotel receptionists, do we really need them in the future? Software testing is also something that can be automated easily. Analysts, again, working with data, finding trends in data, it's something we can automate. Financial reporting, updating data, data entry, creating reports from data, that's also something that can be done more and more easily. Basically, now if we give people a few simple tools in their hands, they will be able to generate their own tools. So these tools will largely replace the work of specialists. Medical diagnostics. We have the tools to analyze data. Medical diagnostics will benefit greatly from information technology. Assembly workers, robots can replace them because it's very serial. In nature, so basically you just repeat and repeat and repeat and repeat the same job, and robots do not need a break. They don't need to sleep. Their jobs is at danger. Legal and financial advisory. We need that. We have to. It's basically something that can very easily be replaced with even on the World Wide Web today. Middlemen and brokers. Middlemen, basically aggregators of information, becoming specialists in something. We can do it ourselves. The information is out there. We can aggregate our own information. We don't need middlemen for that. So there are a lot of jobs at risk. What does that mean for the average worker? What does it mean for the type of work that we do? We will go from repetitive tasks. Repetitive tasks are the tasks that most easily automated to creative tasks. Key skills required in the future will be less technical and more around the learning quotient of an individual. Very simple, if we look back into our own recent history, back in the old days when before there was a Windows operating system, if you wanted to work with a computer, you work with a terminal screen, and you needed to type in commands. I remember Shift F7, I think, was the print command on a Windows operating machine. Very, very counterintuitive. With the arrival of Windows, personal computing became accessible to almost anybody who could follow the logic that Windows what Microsoft and Mac had invented. So that made it very accessible. This is also true for the new technology. It will become more and more easy to use, but you will have to be able to relearn. My friend is a notary,
He's a notary. He has an office, and he has a very big office. I think he employs like 40 people or something in the Netherlands, in Amsterdam. And we have a group of friends, and every month we need to donate some money. And then once a year or twice a year we go somewhere. Maybe I'll take a holiday to go to Spain or for a weekend or do something crazy. Anyway, so we put some money together and we put it into a bank account. Now this week, one of my friends said, "Oh, I changed banks, so please transfer money to the other bank account." And he said, "Oh, komaru. What do you mean komaru? Just put it in the other bank account. Why you make such a fuss out of this?" Well, finally the word came out. He doesn't know how to use internet banking. So, I mean, this kind of person will have a difficulty in the future to actually be flexible enough to work with this new technology.
Yeah, currently we have a big difficulty try to pay money in China. And many places they accept online payment,
Right.
but Japanese people cannot do that.
Right.
Right? So we have a big difficulty to hire taxi, and they just only accept
WeChat Pay or something like that.
WeChat or Alipay.
Alipay.
So I can't pay. So that's the reason why I can't hire them. He's going to Darren. Darren the same, right? You need to pay WeChat or Alipay
Many people use WeChat.
for
QR code.
hire DD or hire taxi.
Yes.
So you can't hire taxi by
In the Netherlands, it's the same. Like all the parking machines, they all have this chip payment system. What if you are a tourist and you come to Rotterdam, for example? You can't pay. It's ridiculous.
Yeah, this is a problem.
They never considered that foreigners will also want to park in the Netherlands. So that's why you need to create open systems.
In Malaysia, I usually use Uber taxi.
Ah.
Uber taxi is linked by credit card.
Oh, credit card.
Yeah.
So you can pay.
Yeah.
But China they are not linked to credit card. They are
Therefore,
WeChat,
WeChat Pay.
Alipay.
Alipay.
Yeah. So that's
The reason is simple. Credit card system, they need to pay money for bank, right? But WeChat, Alipay, no kind of fees.
right. Right, but it should become more and more easy because we can create very easily like peer-to-peer payment systems, right? Like with Bitcoin, like Bitcoin.
Not Bitcoin, just Alipay. They're going to send money for the dinner charge. They pay by Alipay to me, but my handy phone cannot accept it. But usually Chinese to Chinese, they pay money each other for shared money.
But the thing is that you need to register at an authorization. So Alipay, there is a bank who's monitoring all the money that flows from. If you want to make a payment to this person, actually the money goes from you to that central institution and then to the other person, right?
Yeah.
Now the new systems are actually they're not going via the central institution anymore. They're going direct. So you don't need to register with the bank anymore. You just need to create an identity, you create a wallet, and you can create direct payment system without having to rely on a single institution.
But still current this system is problem, right?
Well, it's not. The problem is actually the
You're talking about the cryptocurrencies because
Yes.
it's still not stable yet.
well, you mean the value of the cryptocurrency is not
Yeah, it's 100% no guarantee.
inflated, right?
This
So
is a problem.
yeah, but there are actually already new systems that are being developed that actually have the backing of real money and real funds.
Yeah, but still more several years to
No, it's already there, but
get stable.
well, it might take time to be stable. I mean, we're not even sure whether Bitcoin will be the
Yeah,
the
but
cryptocurrency.
but many the other side people still there are many people worrying about some people or many people they're using cryptocurrency, but many people still skeptical for using that.
Right. Well, so am I actually.
Right.
So
For example,
I like the technology behind it.
I
But
tell you, can you submit your asset to this cryptocurrency? No, it's different.
oh, it's very dangerous. It's very
But
dangerous.
after using cryptocurrency, Alibaba or Alipay, they rely on this those system, right?
Alibaba Alipay is that a cryptocurrency? No.
No. This is stable,
So.
guaranteed.
Right. Well, recently, it would have been a very good investment to have yourself be paid in bitcoins, for example, because the price has been going up last year a lot. Now it's going. It has imploded, but
Yeah. So this is still takes time. I believe. My friend, they invested a lot. He got a lot of money, but the following day, this value will get half. So fluctuating. So it's still not stable yet.
no.
Right?
No.
So
No.
it takes more several years.
But
I believe that is a very good future for finance system or monetary system, but still not yet, not stable yet. Right?
But do you think in 3-4 years' time is the value of Bitcoin, is that increased or is it decreased?
Not increase, not decrease, just stable. Okay, get stable. This is my observation. And many banks and government involved, and they try to utilize for those kind of system, so kind of peer-to-peer. So it takes time.
Yeah, banks. I mean, for banks, this would be a very good system.
Yeah. But actually, the banking is no loan. This kind of system will disappear. Right?
Loans?
Yeah.
Why do you think?
Well, I tell you, like Alibaba or some other kind of not banking company will going to provide kind of services. And beforehand, banking they try to get profit, kind of lending money and sort of activity, but not anymore.
Well, but still there will be a need for loans and for money to start businesses, for example.
But so banking system, banking business will disappear. It's spread to the many kind of industries, not only bank, right? How do you think?
So, I mean, that the future of banks is very bleak. Because we don't need them as an authorization institute anymore.
So Japanese bank, they try to reduce employment because they don't need.
So,
right?
It's ridiculous why there are so many people working with the banks.
Yeah,
it's really ridiculous.
Yeah. So this is my thought. Also, automobile industry, banking industry, both of those disappear. But last week you told me transportation will prevailing in the world. Transportation
will prevail.
Prevailing, spread all over the world.
Last week we talked about transportation as a service.
Like on the way come to on lunch, coming back to the office, we find a lot of post box. It's the roadside. This is I think future they try to utilize this post box, delivered product, deliver parcel and receiving mail, and this roadside. So they're going to reconstruct this kind of position. Automated car will bring this mail, they pick up mail and drop parcels and boxes or whatever else. They can do it.
You know what I think it was Amazon is doing in the United States. They don't bring it to the post box. They deliver it to the trunk of your car.
trunk of your car.
Right.
How are they going to do it?
Well, so they leave the trunk of the car open. They can trace the car, right? So they don't want delivery people to bring the parcels into the house. So instead of that, they're going to leave the trunk of the car open and let people deliver the goods into the trunk of the car.
This is by man. I'm talking about automated. For example, roadside.
Oh, right.
They're going to currently red post box here.
But we have that already, no?
No, red box, mailbox here.
Mm.
And many people submit their letters in this post box, right?
Mm.
And this will going to be in your future. They can automatically pick them up because roadside, right?
Mm.
The change box is automated, so robot can pick it up. And more
not robot, they can suck it.
But anyway, so also they can deliver the parcel roadside, and they're going to notify the person to the people around there. Okay, you can receive this mail or your parcel number, so and so. So you can open this box at this roadside. You can get it.
But are we not already doing that? Like if you look at, for example, a lot of the apartments that I see in Japan, they have at the entrance they have a kind of drop-off box.
No. I'm talking about if you're going to consider for that, we need to consider for every building, right?
Mm.
But this is almost impossible, right? So what I'm talking about is. Currently, Japan Post is a private company, but government and private company or transportation company do something for roadside. Okay, they're going to make kind of facilities, and you don't need to consider for each building. Each building is very difficult, so robot can get in, but every building they can't do that.
I don't think it will be a work of robots. That's probably it's more like a parcel system where you can just use tubes and
No, every condominium is impossible. So I'm talking about this is maybe not Japan. I'm talking about maybe China or some more flexible government. We're going to accept to do that. Okay. Government will go. China has the most highly capability they building kind of delivery system. And do you know how many parcels delivered every day in China? It's uncountable.
Well, Japan too. I mean, the only people you see
but
on
Japan
the street
are
the parcel delivery people. That's the only people you see.
But Japanese people, they don't conservative. They don't change the system. Right?
Well, they're definitely conservative.
They will not change.
Definitely conservative.
Okay, let's move on. This is what's next.
Okay, so flexibility will be very important. So how quickly can you unlearn and learn new things? How quickly can you acquire new skills? And how quickly can you adapt yourself to a new paradigm? Like how quickly, like for example, so strange. Nowadays everybody counts their friends by the number of contacts they have on Facebook. That's really a paradigm shift. Example: software testing. Traditionally, very manual work. So, what you do, basically, you try to hack the software. You just try to break it. All kinds of ways that you can try to create transactions into a system or to make it fail. So that is a very manual skill that is not easy to automize. But what we have in software is we have constant new releases of software version, and a lot of the time that goes into testing whether everything still works with a new release of the software. So you create new components, you update other components within the software. You go from release version 2.6 to version 2.7, And at that moment, you add those new components. You not only need to test those components that you add, but you also need to check whether all the other components still work as they're supposed to work. Now, that kind of testing, that can be automized. Basically, you create test scenarios, you let the computer do that. So that kind of job, that kind of testing job, is very manual and can very easily be automated. So a lot of software automators will lose their job, but not everybody. Because if you look at testing as a skill, there may be people who are actually...
are you talking about testing means testing will going to be automated?
Yes. Yeah. Testing will be largely automated, but and most testers will lose their job, but there will be testers who can think out of the box, who can look beyond that manual testing, and the tester who will be able to create a framework, who will be able to create those models that will enable the testing software to run automatically. Those are the people who will still be in high demand for a job. But you need to look at adjacency. So combining your skill with the new technology. That is the type of job that will remain in high demand. So every worker, if he wants to maintain his job, needs to look at what am I doing today, and how could that be more efficiently done with AI, with robotics, with the new technology that is available. Those people will be the ones who are going to be winners. Example: IAS is currently considering to start a service to pick up Chinese guests from Narita Airport with taxis. Travel agency is paying considerable amount of money to do that, but it's a flat fee, so it needs to be done swiftly. And if you have delays and things like that, then it's for your own account. But if you run things smoothly, there is a big potential to make a margin on that. Now,
what are you talking about? A taxi from Narita Airport to
anywhere in Tokyo.
So what?
So what? That service, the travel agent pays a sum of money. Let's say one way, 1万5000 yen. So anyone you need to pick up, 1万5000 you will get. But you need to take care of the taxis and everything that's going on. So there is a responsibility for the organizer to do that. Now, you can put an operator in the middle, or two operators in the middle, who is going to call and keep in touch with all the taxi drivers and try to be as flexible as possible and say, okay, there is a traffic jam here, let's bring the other taxi driver to Narita right now and let the other person, instead of waiting there, turn around and pick up another guest somewhere from a hotel near Tokyo Station, for example. If you do it really smart, you use AI.
You're talking about Uber?
Not Uber.
What are you talking about?
A different system.
Actually, in China, if you're going to try to get taxi and just order some middleman company, and you just order them, and then they're going to let you know most closest taxi staying where you're staying. So they're going to ask this taxi, and they're going to come to your place.
Right.
This is the way are you talking about?
What happens is that basically from China we will get every day an overview that on this airplane so many people will arrive. They need to go to this hotel, this hotel, this hotel. On that airplane so many people will arrive, Mr. This and that, need to go to that hotel, that hotel. And we just need to make sure that it happens. At the same time, they say, okay, today at this time from that hotel in Tokyo, guests need to be brought from that hotel back to Narita. And their airplane leaves at this time, so they need to be picked up at that time. So that is basically the service. The question is, can you do that for that money?
What do you mean?
Well, there's a flat rate. Let's say that you get 1 million yen to do that. 1 million yen should normally be possible, but what happens if you get stuck in traffic? If you're late, what happens if something unexpected happens? Well, actually, the unexpected can be expected. So how are you going to organize that? If you're going to do that with operators, maybe you can make ends meet. But if you can introduce artificial intelligence into your system, then it's quite likely that you will be able to actually generate a profitable operation.
Oh, okay. This is actually quantum computer tested last year from Beijing to airport.
Right.
And at the same time, 200 cars going to moving toward Beijing airport from downtown. And they calculated which way is the most quickest way to reach into the airport. And if we're going to utilize the world's largest computer for calculating for the way, it takes 6 hours. But quantum computer gets solution only 5 minutes. Okay, this kind of things you are talking about, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
So, and then also the system should see, oh, wait a minute, there's a congestion occurring there.
Exactly.
Plus, the guy who you're supposed to pick up from the airport, from the Hotel X, actually his appointment is running late, so you need to pick him up from another place.
Okay.
So who is going to pick that up?
Current technology it's impossible, but in future can.
Yeah. It's very, very difficult. So you need to have very, very smart people to actually take care of that, or you will lose a lot of money.
I understand what you mean.
So that's very, very tricky. But this kind of people who can do that, people who can organize it, not the simple operators, but people who can introduce this technology into their operation, they will actually be able to make a living, make a living.
In future, is it possible to recognize one lady is okay, just she's you acquaintance with her, and she's just standing, and you're going to ask her several questions, but you can guess what she's thinking about. Okay, so you're going to have several questions, and my computer tell me you have this question for her. Next is this question. Depending on what she answers, then you're going to interactively make several questions.
Right.
Then you can judge. You're going to ask her going to have dating or not. The automated robot answer for you.
Yeah, but I think then
100%.
I think her computer will answer your computer.
Your answer is because my computer drive her computer. So while her computer, her computer say you should say yes. Okay, I'll go and pay for you $100. This is the AI. Is it?
No.
What I'm talking about, this is kind of human involving.
No. The way that it works, actually, your example would work, but the way that it works is that you put into your program, into the program of your computer that you're carrying, right? You put into your program, you say, okay, I want to date her, right? But you don't know anything yet.
Right.
So basically, you give your computer the assignment, I want to date with her.
Yeah.
Then your computer will going to throw a question, right? So you're going to ask that question. Based on her feedback, the computer is going to calculate what should be the next question, or what should be the next thing that you're going to say. So that is artificial intelligence. So
yeah, then, okay, several interactive questions, and my computers will going to throw the ball to her computer.
Right.
Why not negotiate $100? She should say yes. This is, I think, machine interface.
But I'm not sure whether her computer will be sensitive for money.
Like Russia and American election, is they kind of, bribes or some manipulating. This is always something kind of so things happen. So even AI and robotics, both advanced whatever happened, but this sort of things happen. What I'm trying to say. And I forget that I studied something neuron. Neuron is some neuron, mutual neuron. Okay, this I'm going to move in some way, and she's going to move in some way. It's kind of same direction, same type of working they are doing. Oh, mirroring neuron. Everybody has a mirror neuron. Mirror neuron means I'm moving some way, but she's moving the same way. This is mirror neuron. Everybody has kind of neuron. So we're going to kind of get kind of neuron system in your head. So neuron system and AI is going to link in kind of movement. This kind of something happen in future. You know? And also bribes. 100% I'm sure it is bribes. Okay? And because this is a hacker, hackers. They try to manipulate in computer some way, right? And hacking wheels throw the wheels to one-shot wheels throw them. One-shot wheels, okay? This is okay. Always, in the world, everything is not mathematically calculated. Okay, this is many people still believe in future automation, AI,
right.
robotics. No. These people involvement, these different things will happen. This is my belief. Okay.
Right, but the case that you gave, the very case. So I want to date with her, is actually something that you could calculate with AI. That is a thing a computer should theoretically learn.
Okay, I tell you. Why this question I gave it to you? Because you told me taxi, okay?
Right.
What's the most quickest way from here to Narita Airport?
Right.
And I want to get
but that's very simple.
No, how much money I need to pay.
Right.
And there's somebody interrupted. Okay? 10,000 is my true answer. Okay, 10,000. But somebody throw the wheels there. No, 15,000, sorry. Okay, I get 15,000. This is the best way solution. I need to pay 15,000 away. But this is somebody manipulating the result. This is possible. Right?
So, yeah, but it's happening already, like everywhere. Like in Amazon, the recommendation that like 50% of the reviews is from friends.
Oh yeah, Amazon Go.
I know Kimoto-san is reviewing your book on Amazon.
You said mail to me, right? Amazon Go. Payment, Amazon Go.
Right.
Payment. It's very difficult to accurate calculation. Right?
Yeah.
They can easily steal.
Well, I don't know if it's easy. I don't know if it's easier than stealing from a.
I know that how to do this because before when I from Nagoya station to Tokyo station, I lost my ticket, and bullet train I need to pay money again. I don't want to pay money, but I lost my ticket. How are we going to solve it? I'm going to stick it to follow him. So this machine cannot recognize two persons.
My colleagues, they always made a sport out of that. So they would take an airplane together. They would drive to Schiphol Airport, and then every time, every parking lot, they wanted to go out without paying. But they had very expensive cars, so they were trying. So they were always the one would creep behind the other, and not pay. Now at Schiphol they have two gates. It's impossible anymore.
Oh, impossible. Maybe 10 centimeter, 20 centimeters, they can.
But no, they have two gates, so you cannot follow anymore.
You cannot connecting.
Right.
I see. That's right. Okay, go ahead.
All right. So automation will hit low-skilled workers harder than high-skilled workers because of this adjacency. Because the latter have more adjacencies, therefore they will be hit less hard. So the doctor can still keep a job because he needs to explain, needs to interact with the patient, while the cleaner doesn't have any adjacencies. If the toilet is being cleaned by a machine, then basically he lost his.
I tell you, we don't need many doctors. Majority of doctors we don't need anymore. We can automation can replace him.
Right.
But very few doctor, a few doctor, like a surgical operator.
Care workers, because
Okay, care workers is different. Care workers also we need, and sort of special skilled worker, a doctor, the care worker, special skilled person will remain.
Right.
Otherwise, majority of doctor we don't need.
Right.
Like, for example, blood test, or for example, do you have a cold? Do you have some, kind of typical, problem do you have? This kind of question, automated doctor will ask you, okay, how about temperatures and...
So you can just send it through your phone, right?
This one is, that's right. I don't know how to do it, but there's...
So just it will be able to measure here directly. So you can, your heartbeats can be transponded. If there's a problem, you just press it.
Press it, 1 minute, and you can get the information.
Right.
So then, transmitting the information to automated doctor.
Right.
They're going to answer you. You have disease.
Not only that, they're going to do that with everybody. So if there is, for example, a virus or like influenza toka, they will be very easy to pick up on that, because the data that we'll receive everywhere will be automatically cross-referenced. So they will be much easier to identify an outbreak of influenza or another outbreak. So it will also be much easier to control diseases. And
so what I mean, many doctors, we don't need many doctors.
No. And we don't need so many people to actually work in the pharmaceutical industry, because basically a lot of the...
How about teacher?
Well, teachers I think we need, because we need to train people to work with this technology. There's things like wisdom you cannot learn from...
I tell you, like UNO school is, I'm going to show the video. Now I'm explaining in the middle of video, but just 1 hour video, okay, you can have a look. Then after that, teacher will come back. How's that? Then he's going to explain. It means the teacher's burden will drastically decreasing their workload. Or e-learning. Okay,
e-learning, yeah.
Okay. So your student is coming to school 6 hours, but teachers just only spend 2 hours, 4 hours e-learning. It's sort of things is available, capable, right? So we don't need the teachers like as it is.
Yeah, okay, but we still need some, for example, in case
There
of
you go.
kids.
Data. 80.
Heartbeat?
80 beat. Beat.
Oh,
80 beat.
Oh, you have the breathe app.
He said, inhale, exhale.
63.
Oh, it's too low. How come so quick?
Well, it's apparently it's already. This was 7 minutes ago, so it's measuring.
Oh, okay. Okay, let's move.
Okay. So what are we going to do with low-skilled workers? Typically, low-skilled workers like cleaners, elevator operator, waiter, security guards are clearly prone to automation. We can provide them social security or a basic income, and but we can also provide them with a more dignified option. What is a more dignified option? So basically, what we can do, we can say, okay, if we need to still we need to have the same output, right? Now we can use machines to get the same output. So technically speaking, we would be capable of providing of providing drugs, for example, at a much lower cost, because
So what are you going to do for those people?
So that's the question. What are we going to do with those people? Are we going to give them a base income? Are we going to give the people who lose the job? Are we going to give them unemployment fee, base income, or are we going to keep on employing these people somehow? Like, for example, once you're retired, you can work at a school and as a security guard, for example. Not that we need a security guard, but anyway, it's nice to have somebody at the entrance of the school. It's nice for the kids, and it will give the people who are basically not productive anymore something to do. So they have something to go to during the day. They will have something that will give them some kind of purpose and satisfaction in life. So that would be basically a more dignified solution. So we can give them a base income, or we can invent jobs for them. What do you think?
This is a problem.
Well, basically, if the job in itself doesn't add so much value, then actually the salary that should be paid for such a job should be zero. But if we still pay them a salary, that's almost the same as a basic income. So we can say, okay, well, we just give you a basic income and find something to do in your spare time, in your free time.
I think many people, they cannot work only simple work.
Right.
Okay?
Right.
So for those people, we're going to assign them more sophisticated work. They cannot do that.
Exactly. So what to do with them? What to do with people who no longer, who cannot keep up with these new
basic income? Okay, government will going to pay for some certain money for survival. Are they satisfied? No, I don't think so.
No. So that will give all kinds of other problems.
This is the issue.
Social unrest.
That's right, what I'm talking about.
Social unrest, depression.
That's right.
Diseases.
That's right.
It will not be pleasant.
That's right. This is a social problem.
So instead of giving them a base income, can we invent some kind of work that these people can do? Like go to elderly homes and become a buddy or something like that?
That's the reason why I recommend you, we need to study Greece and Roman democracy 2,000 years ago. Actually, they did the same way, same thing. What's the solution? I wanted to know.
In the Netherlands, they have a system, for example, where younger people, they can live with... my heartbeat's going down 61. I've got to switch it off, otherwise I get nervous. Young people, they get the opportunity to live together with elderly people in elderly houses. So a few of the rooms are being reserved for young people to live there. So they don't pay rent or pay very low rent, but in exchange they need to socialize with these elderly people. By doing that, it will create more bonds between young people and elderly people. So it will actually revitalize elderly people more, because if you are completely surrounded only by elderly people, that doesn't really stimulate you, because you collectively live in the past. But if you still have a bridge to what's happening these days, and you have direct contact with contemporary society through these young people, then actually there is less loneliness, there is more social interaction, and people stay healthier longer. So those kinds of programs, that you see them everywhere in the Netherlands.
This is Japanese 2 generations living, right?
Right.
Similar to
Right. That's actually the same. Where
that is true.
Obasan is living together with her grandchild, and both can learn something from each other. both benefit from each other.
But still, we can solve this kind of skilled worker, non-skilled workers. How to?
Well, so this could be typically a thing that a non-skilled worker can do. So we have a buddy program, for example, to fight loneliness in Amsterdam, where you can sign up for a program. You will be assigned to an elderly person living in your area, and then you're supposed to visit them like once every 2 weeks. To ask them how you're doing, you're not sick, and just have a cup of coffee, have a conversation, and just make sure that these people do not get into complete isolation.
Simplify my question. Greece era, 2,000 years ago, citizens, they don't need to work.
Right.
But skilled citizen, knowledgeable citizen, they are studying every day. But majority of people, they don't want to study. Okay? So what they are doing at that time, like Socrates, Aristotle, the kind of person, philosophers, I want to study every day. I like it. Right? And certain level of people, they studied every day. And ancient Chinese people, you should study. Okay, so you get study more well educated, so your life support going to be happy. Also, they said, but majority people, they don't want to study. So actually, what they're doing and how they're going to stable that society. This is my basic question.
So daily life in ancient Greece.
I have no knowledge about this.
What did regular people? What was life like in Pompeii?
Right. So many people, they don't do anything, but their society is, very stable. Right? I don't think everybody study. Well, I don't think everybody is willing to.
No, there were bakeries and schools, and there were. I went to Pompeii, but it looks like a regular.
No, they don't. Many people they don't want to go to school.
But there was school.
The same as now. Many children don't want, even if they're going to school, they don't study. But even 2,000 years ago, the same. But even over they're going to 20, 30, 40 years old, what they're going to do? And the government say you don't need to work. Okay, we're going to take care of your life. But what they did. Okay, you like to read a book or you like to study, so those people are very happy every day, okay, and educated day by day. You get something get from kind of knowledge, wisdom. But many people, they are not interested in studying. What they did?
What's it called? Fruit challenge.
Yeah, like I understand, but like my wife, she don't work and they just doing that like this every day. But not mentally, it's not good for her.
No.
How are you going to give them better life? Like a household, okay? Wife, you took one example. You don't need to work, okay? So then looks happy, but looks very much frustrated, okay? Because every day they don't need to work. What's happened? This is kind of
drinking.
Huh? Yeah, some people drinking cause problem, right? This is true.
So start drinking, become a kitchen.
The other bottle. No, the other bottle. Yeah. Right? So this is the problem. Currently, phenomena is actually happening.
Well, I don't know this as a fact, but I believe that there is more depression among rich people.
Yeah. Okay, you can watch TV. It's current TV boring, right? So what else they're going to do?
For rich people, that maybe they don't need to work. The wife doesn't need to work. They have somebody who does all the daily chores, that does the cooking, the cleaning, and everything else. So anything they need to do is shop and meet friends and socialize. But there is very little gratification in that. Of course, when asked the question, well, then why did you go back and do all the cleaning yourself? They don't want to do that either. But that, I think that is basically very understandable that people become very depressed. Because if I didn't have to do anything and would get depressed, then and people would give me the option, then why don't you go and clean your house, Toka? I would not be satisfied with that, even though if I don't have the money, I would clean the house and would not be depressed, maybe a lot happier. But
Okay, so far no answer. Okay, move.
no answer. Well, no. I think there are very few cleaners, people who work in cleaning, who are depressed.
One more question. I just thinking about what are those Greece people doing for those people? They did something for them, right? Like a theater, or like they make a lot of tragedy drama at the theater.
Yeah.
And also they have a big stadium for some special spectacular show.
Right, with lions and
That's right, and also they
gladiators. And
they try to consider a lot of kind of event. Also, one event is like, for example, kind of Olympic. They are thinking about many shows, like once a week or sort of things.
We do the same thing. We have television every day. We organize the Olympics.
Oh,
we have theaters.
Are you watching TV?
I'm not watching TV. But
No, this is no. This is just not satisfied.
So
just watching TV them frustrating.
I'm not saying that people in ancient Greece or Rome were satisfied.
But they try to make events. They try to change, give special services for them.
Right. But like the royal courts in Europe, there people were utterly bored. Utterly bored.
What?
The royal courts in Europe, the members, they didn't have to work. They had lots of money, but they were utterly bored.
What do you mean?
Bored, like they didn't find any meaning or
So what are they doing?
Nothing. Eat, sleep, procrastinate, and do all the basic things. Right?
Do you know the Japanese emperor is so busy every day? They don't work, but actually they're so busy. And they keep the events of tradition. Very busy.
Yeah. Shinto priests like work, right? So, well, we don't have that system.
Okay, let's move on.
Okay, energy. Looking at energy and energy consumption in Japan and in the renewable market. How far is Japan when it comes to moving from the fossil fuel driven economy towards a renewable energy platform? What Rifkin was talking about in his presentation. So this graph shows on in the red line shows the energy consumption in Japan between 1965 and 2015, and the blue line shows GDP. So what we notice here is that actually the energy consumption has been more or less stable. You could even say that it has been decreasing a little bit, while the GDP kept growing. So there is more of a gap between GDP growth and energy consumption growth. Japan has become a little bit more energy extensive.
Why this happened?
Good question. Next graph.
Oh, great, great.
So looking at how electricity is being produced, electricity production in Japan. So we see the red line. That is the electricity is being produced with fossil fuels. So the energy, the electricity plants use mostly fossil fuels to generate electricity. They also used nuclear up until 2011, and then we see that dramatically fell down. Hydroelectric actually was pretty significant. I didn't know this, but actually in 1950, 1/3 of all energy, of all primary energy, came from hydro. And today, that is only 4%. So actually, Japan relied heavily on hydro energy, and for 50% on coal in 1950. Nowadays, it's still 17% is coal. Oil has decreased; it's now 50%. Natural gas, 13%. Nuclear has gone down to 0 right now, and others is still very, very insignificant. It's just 2001, but it was about 15% in 2001. So what we see is that actually the renewable energy still plays a relatively limited role in the total electricity production in Japan. So Japan lacks domestic reserves of fossil fuels. We import substantial amounts of crude oil and natural gas. Japan relied on oil imports to meet about 84% of its energy needs in 2010. We import about 20% of the total world coal imports, a lot of it from Australia, if I'm not mistaken, and 12.1% of the total gas imports, mostly from Indonesia, Malaysia, Brunei. That's where our gas comes from. A little bit from United States, but mostly from Southeast Asia. So that those fossil fuels, they are still we still rely on them heavily. While Japan had previously relied on nuclear power to meet about 30% of its electricity needs after the 2001 Fukushima Daiichi nuclear power plant, all nuclear reactors have been progressively shut down for safety concerns. And the effect of the Fukushima disaster has been that we have been saving 5% electricity of energy in 1 year time.
So shut down the nuclear power plant. So Japanese nationwide 5%.
But so basically, no, it's not as simple as that, because basically we still wanted electricity. So what happened is that actually, based on this graph, we can see that actually we have started to substitute nuclear energy for oil almost completely. So everything that was previously powered by nuclear energy is now powered by oil. But that's not the entire picture, because actually we also started to use less energy.
You said less 5%.
Yes, less than 5
Every year.
No, not
In
every
total?
year in total. Yeah. So in 2011, that led to a significant energy saving of 5%. We could save
Only 2011, 5%.
yes.
What do you mean 5% in total?
So 5%. The energy consumption was in 2011 was 5% less than it was in 2010.
And then?
And
years?
and then after that,
Just going back four more slide.
No, I
Just
think
shows. No, next one. Next one. No, next slide.
so I think that this is the this
No,
one.
next one.
This
Yeah,
is
you,
this
you,
is
can, you can have a look. The red one is increasing 100 plus.
so this is 250, and this one
That's right. That's what I'm talking about.
this one went up with about 200. So basically, 50 less, and this remained more or less stable with a little bit increase in
More than 10%.
yeah, in total.
Okay, I got you.
Japan currently produces about 10%, 10% of the total energy production is alternative energy.
Renewal.
Right, renewable energy. How does that compare with the rest of the world? Netherlands only produces 5.5%. Very little, actually.
Why you have
Yeah.
renewal?
Well, actually, I think probably because we have a lot of natural gas.
Oh, you get natural gas.
Right. So
Oh, okay.
I think that's, but we have a lot of windmills. So I was actually very surprised to learn that it was only 5.5% of.
Yeah, I thought.
I thought it was much more. Germany is 32%, but Germany is relying heavily on the oil from Russia, for example. So for them, there is much bigger incentive to base themselves on renewable energy. But the Netherlands is lagging behind. So Japan is somewhere in the middle, much behind Germany, but much ahead of the Netherlands. So currently about 10%. According to the fourth strategic energy plan, that's a Japanese plan for a across the board energy plan, set the renewable share of the share of the renewables to be 24% by 2030. So go up from 10% to 24% by 2030. Germany is then expected to be at about 45% of renewables. So still behind Germany. We're probably way ahead of the Netherlands. In the next 15 years, Japan intends to invest $700 billion into renewable energy. So that's very significant. So what kind of alternative energy sources are we talking about? Let's have a look. Brief videos. Hello.
A new episode of Focus, Japan Special. The market for renewable energy is experiencing a real surge here and should continue to develop. What opportunities are there for European companies and the technologies needed by the Japanese? To get a better understanding of the situation, we've come to the outskirts of Kobe to this floating solar panels power plant. The electricity produced in this way is then sold back to the principal providers. This technology was developed here in Japan at an industrial level by a French SME.
Firstly, Japan is a country where the cost of buying back electricity is very high. Furthermore, the amount of sunshine is excellent, and then it's a very mountainous country, making it very complicated and costly to install solar power plants on land, whereas there are tens of thousands of areas of water. This is a tremendous potential for floating solar plants.
What attracted the Japanese is, of course, that the product is particularly innovative, but it also respects the environment and is easy to install. It's very easy to
Like
connect
Lego.
the floats. It's like Lego. They just attach like this. When it came to Japan, this SME formed several partnerships. For example, with the giant Kyocera, which especially produces photovoltaic panels.
その時点ですでに、フロートタイプの
They had some very good results with their system of floating solar panels. We knew they had already completed some very successful projects in Japan. We immediately decided to work with them.
業化が可能だということで、一緒にスタートさせていただきました。
In order to finance its projects, the French company also teamed up with one of the biggest business investors in the country, a particularly rewarding collaboration.
我々は、2年前からシェルテルさんとは国内
We've invested in several developments with them in the past 2 years.
その後
They told us that they had bigger projects on an international level. We decided to gamble on them and became 15% shareholders of the company.
の出資をさせていただくことにいたしました。
To date, the French SME has installed around 20 plants in Japan. The latest will be operational in a few months and it should make an impression.
今年の4月から建設に入る千葉
From
県
September, we'll be building a plant at the Yamakura Dam near Tokyo. A plant with a capacity of 13.7 megas.
建設
Here you see it's 1.2 megas.
まだ
It will be 12 times
全
bigger.
体から見ると12倍
It'll be one of the biggest in Japan, and even in the world.
当然日本一で世界一
For this company as for others, the experience and credibility gained in Japan also has the advantage of allowing them to get new international contracts. The liberalization of the electricity market will happen here next month. That means that the Japanese, who are very aware of renewable energy, will be able to choose their provider. According to specialists, that means that there will be a large increase in solar power offered by companies. Solar power was particularly well represented this year in Tokyo at the annual Renewable Energy Exhibition. We should add that by the end of this year, this country will become the largest market for solar energy after Germany. That said, according to this expert, other energies are rapidly developing. Japanese automobile constructors, for example, are placing their bets on the hydrogen car. Biomass and wind turbine energies are also areas to explore, especially for European companies.
They have much more experience in terms of operating projects. They can get better capacity factors out of their projects. As a result of that, that operation experience is quite valuable. So if they come and if they partner with Japanese developers, there's good opportunities for both sides.
During the COP21, Japan proposed to reduce its greenhouse gas emissions by 26% by 2030 compared to those in 2013, an undertaking which could boost the renewable energy sector.
What do you mean?
They will not be able to reach the 26% CO2 emission reduction by 2030. But we will get to that. So solar is the big alternative energy source in Japan that they're using, but it's not the only one. Actually, there are a few other initiatives that look promising, that are interesting. What's also interesting actually is that it seems to be that a lot of foreign providers are coming to Japan to do these solar projects. Sol is working for a Spanish firm, right?
Now moving to Japanese
French
solar
firm.
company.
But it seems like a lot of foreign companies seem to get a foothold in Japan when it comes to solar.
Why they are doing that?
And Chinese, before he worked for a Chinese company.
China and the Chinese understand in
Right.
China, but not here in Japan.
Yeah, but actually, it seems to be that these companies actually can get a good foot into the Japanese market for some reason.
Right.
I wonder the same thing. Why is that? How come that the Japanese market is so open for this technology? I would reckon that Japan would be very capable in developing their own solar panel technology.
China is more advanced, is it?
I'm not sure. That's probably cheaper, but
Yeah.
Let's wait and start the next one. 2 other projects.
You have one more, right?
Yep.
To this floating solar panels power plant. The electricity produced in this way is then
Hi, my name is Kong, and I have helped many ordinary people turn their hobbies into a career on YouTube.
Harvesting energy from the sea. Japanese researchers have come up with special technology that can not only capture energy from waves, but also help protect coastlines. A team from Okinawa plans to set up energy harvesting turbines near tetrapods, which are concrete structures placed along the shore to weaken the force of incoming waves and prevent erosion. The turbine has 5 flexible blades modeled after dolphin fins. It's supported by a stem that's anchored to the seafloor with mooring cables, which, like the blades, is flexible and can bend under pressure. Inside the turbine head is a magnet electric generator, which transforms wave energy into electricity. The electricity is sent back to the shore via cables to feed into the grid. Using turbines on just 1% of Japan's coastline can generate roughly 10 gigawatts of energy, equivalent to about 10 nuclear power plants. Apart from tetrapods, the turbines can also harness electricity near coral reefs. They're built to be safe for marine life, with blade speed carefully calibrated so that any animals caught in them can escape unharmed. The team is currently preparing to install 2 half-scale model turbines that will power LEDs as part of a commercial demonstration. Here are more sustainable energy solutions.
Japanese engineer develops turbine that loves typhoons. A new type of wind mechanism being developed in Japan is designed to not only harness power from the wind, but also to be particularly effective during typhoons. A typhoon turbine created by a Japanese engineer consists of 3 vertical blades and a central rod. It has an omnidirectional axis so that it can respond to wind coming from every direction. The turbine makes use of the principle of the Magnus effect. Air curves when passing by a rotating object, and the downward deflection of the airflow produces a lifting force that counteracts the force of gravity, enabling the object to remain airborne. The blades are controlled by the central rod, which can be tightened to slow down or stop the blades completely, regardless of the external forces. Under normal circumstances, the typhoon turbine can achieve about 30% efficiency, while a conventional wind turbine can achieve 40%. However, conventional wind turbines can be damaged by typhoons, while the typhoon turbine would still function normally in a large storm. The designer of the typhoon turbine believes a single typhoon would be able to generate enough energy to power Japan for 50 years. According to the Japan Guide, about 7 or 8 typhoons pass over Okinawa Prefecture each year, with about 3 hitting its main islands. If the typhoon turbine is proven to be functional under extreme weather, then Japan could harvest a significant amount of energy to power itself for a long time. Cameroon turns human...
Okay, so those are 2 examples of other renewable energy sources that may have potential for Japan. The wave energy, wind energy, typhoons. Well, the potential is always enormous, right? So you only have to do this much, like 1% of the coastline could be enough to power to generate power of 10 nuclear power plants.
That's actually very good for protect the typhoon.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And to harness the power that is stored into a typhoon and convert it into electricity, that would be enormous potential. Well, this is biofuel. That actually, like if we look at renewable energy, then it turns out that we do a lot more in biofuel than we do in wind energy.
What does it mean? 10 times? 10 times larger than nuclear power plant.
No, if we would put these devices on 1% of the Japanese coastline, then we would be able to generate the same amount of power as 10 nuclear power plants.
1% of coastline.
Right. So if we would put these wave things at our coastline, then that would generate the same amount of power as 10 nuclear power plants. Here, 10 nuclear power plants. I think that was one.
To about 10 nuclear power plants to feed into the grid. Using turbines on just 1% of Japan's coastline can generate roughly 10 gigawatts of energy, equivalent to about 10 nuclear power plants.
What is it?
So that if we put these devices on 1% of Japanese coastline.
What do you mean 1% of Japanese coastline?
Well, if we have like 20,000 kilometers Japanese coastline, and we would put these kind of devices for 200 kilometers, then we would be able to generate the same amount of power for these 200 kilometers as 10 nuclear power plants. But that's quite a lot, actually, because Japan has an enormous coastline. And even 1% I think is quite a lot.
Not practical.
I think probably the maintenance costs were pretty high. I wonder whether I suspect that the maintenance costs of these things were pretty high.
So not practical.
I think solar energy will be much less maintenance, and once we have the battery technology in order, that would be probably a much better solution.
No, I understand. She's talking about like kind of dream. It doesn't make sense.
So there are other examples of energy sources, like there is. This is Cameroon. This is a hodl, where you use kinetic energy to power. And there's also the Netherlands, cows here in the Netherlands.
Netherlands set to spend 150 million euros on biogas production. The Netherlands has found a use for their cows other than pumping milk, turning their manure into energy. Manure processing is important to the Netherlands, as about 10% of the country's greenhouse gas emissions come from agriculture, mostly methane from animal manure. The International Dairy Federation says the nation's livestock produces about 74 million tons of manure a year, which is too much to be directly applied to farmland as fertilizer. The excessive amount of nutrients could leak into underground water, resulting in algae growth and pollution to nearby water sources. To solve this problem, officials have implemented an experiment at one farm. Cow manure is put through an anaerobic digester, where exposure to bacteria transforms solid manure into liquid form. The resulting substance then releases biogas that is made mostly of methane and carbon dioxide. The biogas can be used as fuel, while any leftover manure can be used as fertilizer. This experiment reportedly generated 9,342 kilowatt-hours of electricity in 20 days, which is enough to power 3 homes for a year. The Dutch government has committed to investing 150 million euros to the biogas program, which aims to get 1,000 large farms across the country to produce energy from cow manure within 4 years.
Oh, great.
Well, there's all you are really surprised. So also what we do, for example, is use milk. Milk. Actually, when you milk a cow, the milk is very warm, so that heat is actually being stored and used to heat the greenhouse.
Wow.
Escape. Batteries, of course, batteries are the holy grail.
In the far north of Japan's Honshu Island, wind farms blanket the landscape. They are one piece in an energy puzzle, as Japan tries to figure out how it will power itself in a post-Fukushima world. 2 years after the tsunami and destruction of the now crippled nuclear power plant. It is a tall order when it comes to wind power. Right now, it accounts for less than 1% of Japan's energy resources. As you can see, this area is remote and rugged, and on most days, particularly in the winter, windy as well. But as some skeptics of this renewable energy will point out, when the wind stops, so does the ability to generate power. And it is a stable, constant supply of energy that is crucial. But at the heart of Japan Wind Development's Futamata project are these massive batteries, 17 of them, capable of storing energy and releasing it in an even flow.
This completely changes the equation for a renewable power plant. You can actually supply the power when it's needed, not just when the wind is blowing.
The batteries can store energy through the night when there's usually more wind, and then release it during the day when demand is higher. But as the company admits, it doesn't come cheap.
The holy grail really for us will be to bring down the cost of renewable plus storage to a level which is competitive with other energy forms, and I do believe that will happen. Whether it's 5 years or 10 years or longer, nobody knows, but it will happen, I'm sure.
This is just one part of the wind energy equation in Japan. Another idea being floated, literally, is harnessing the wind on the water. This project launched off the coast of Nagasaki last August. And later this year, the country will start work on an even bigger endeavor off the coast of Fukushima, just miles from the now infamous nuclear power plant. Ideas that are generating energy as well as debate about the best ways to power the country. Alex Zolbert, CNN, Rokashimura, Japan.
So batteries there. Batteries.
Well, what is that going to do that? Battery what?
Batteries. So basically,
save energy in the battery for what?
Yeah, so because actually, you don't want to be dependent on whether or not the wind is blowing. You cannot ask people to switch off their lights or stop cooking when there is no wind. So basically, you need to be able to store that energy and then release it evenly when it's needed. So that's the challenge. How are we going to actually store this energy effectively? Once we have that solved, that will be the beginning of practical applicability of renewable energy.
Is it practical?
I think it's practical. With the batteries, definitely.
But battery cannot save a lot of energy.
Well, the new technology is actually capable of saving a lot. Tesla is doing a lot with batteries. There are some other companies that do a lot, and Japan is.
This one is old.
This is rather old. Yeah. This is rather old. This is 2013 when it was put up. But newer batteries are actually capable of storing a lot of energy and releasing a lot of energy.
I understand, when it's needed. But not before.
So batteries.
Because every major building they have a battery system underground.
Right.
But this is just only sustain a few minutes.
Right.
But not 1 hour.
It's very limited. Usually, it's needed to shut down gracefully, to not let everything shut down immediately.
Only a few minutes.
Right.
So this kind of battery system, it works maybe few years later. Few years later, okay, they can sustain 1 day. right? So fix
Right.
everything.
Right.
Not now.
Not now, but if we, for example, if we have solar energy and we're capable of storing a lot, that will. Okay, maybe we have a couple of days that are not that sunny, but this doesn't happen that often in Japan.
Exactly. That's not useful.
So we see that so Japan actually is doing what it can, looking at alternative resources, but has not been adopted on a very large scale, 10% at the moment. What kind of sources do we have? Hydroelectricity, as we saw, 33% in 1950. It generated 33%. It was a main renewable energy source. Production of 69 what's that? TWH terawatt per hour of electricity in 2009. The smaller plants accounted for 6.8% of Japan's total hydropower capacity. Cost per kilowatt hour, and that's the problem, for power from smaller plants was too high, at 15 yen to 100 yen. That's why we see that actually hydropower is quickly becoming less. It's too expensive. It's too expensive. What would be interesting, actually, what we saw is that project in Kobe, where they put actually the solar panels on water surfaces. Maybe it's a good idea to, instead of using it as a hydropower installation, to put solar power panels on top of the water surface.
Well, hydroelectricity is so expensive. This hydro means
probably maintenance.
Maintenance?
I would reckon it's maintenance.
Hydroelectricity, hydropower plant, right?
Yeah.
Maintenance cost.
Yeah, probably maintenance. Yeah. Usually these plants, these lakes, they are quite remote.
In China, the very huge dam they have. It means they cost a lot.
Cost a lot.
Oh, I see.
Solar power. Japan was the world's second largest producer of photovoltaic electricity in the early 2000s. Although solar was a very minor contribution to the total at the time, the country was overtaken by Germany in 2005, a year in which Japan had 38% of the world's supply compared to Japan's 39%. Since then, Japan has been slow to increase solar capacity compared to other countries. 2012, new tariffs for renewable energy were introduced by the Japanese government. The tariff set at 42 yen per kilowatt hour led to 3.5% of the national electricity consumption produced by solar in 2015. So basically, the government introduced some kind of subsidy for solar power. But they have abolished it again later more about it.
But only 3.5%.
Yeah, it's still
total.
It's still not a lot. Very strangely, I don't know exactly why that is, but actually the electricity generation per plant is significantly lower than other countries. So the houses, for example, a private house in Japan, if they generate if they use solar power, for example, they have solar panels on their roofs, for some reason the average electricity that is being generated in Japan is significantly lower than other countries. Less than half.
What do you mean?
The capacity of the solar power panels in Japan per house is lower than in other countries. Capacity, yeah, to generate electricity. So if the average
small scale, you mean?
Smaller scale, yeah, much smaller scale. So that's kind of surprising, because I would have expected Japan to actually be able to generate much more and convert much more electricity from the sun because of superior quality solar panels, but that doesn't seem to be the case. And Japan in itself is an ideal country for solar energy because there's a lot of sun, especially here in Kanto. Other alternative energy sources: wind power. Lack of locations with constant winds, environmental restrictions, and emphasis by power utilities on fossil and nuclear powers hinder the employment of more wind power in the country. So basically, we don't care so much, we don't want them so much, and actually there is the country in itself is not really suitable for wind power. Geothermal energy, that's also kind of surprising. Why so little? Because there's a lot of volcanic activity. So why so little geothermal energy? Japan is the third largest geothermal reserves in the world, and
geothermal is what kind of location they are using? Sort of geothermal. What kind of location?
Anywhere where they have this
volcanic.
Yeah, volcanic. Yeah. So, but again, probably this is a cost issue.
Maybe.
Yeah. In particular, is being heavily focused on as a source of power. So geothermal, it has a lot of potential, but how to use it in an economic way? That's the challenge. Waste and biomass energy. Japan has 190 generators attached to municipal waste units, and 70 independent plants using biomass fuel to produce energy. In 2008, Japan produced 322 million tons of biomass fuel and converted 76 of this into energy. So recycling, and so that's a very good way to generate energy. Ocean energy. 2012, the government announced plans to build experimental tidal power and wave power plants in coastline areas. Again, this is an economic problem. There's of course, the nice thing about tidal energy is that it's very constant, so we don't need to worry so much about long periods of energy not being capable of being generated. But maintenance is still an issue. Costs of the installations and cost of maintenance will be have a big impact. But it should be like, I mean, on the other hand, thinking about it, it should be not so hard. I mean, basically, just if the tide increases, you just fill a huge reservoir with water. Then if the tide goes down, then you can just generally release that back to the ocean. Okay, to keep that water, to store it, to pen it up, that will cost, but it doesn't seem to be that hard to do. All right, next one. So this is what TEPCO is doing. Had a look at TEPCO and basically where they get their energy from in order to generate electricity. The light blue area is nuclear power. Gray is hydroelectric power. Geothermal energy, that's a very small area here. LPG, that's LNG LPG, that's the gas from mainly from Southeast Asia. Oil, coal from China, oil, and other gas. That's the plan. So what we see is that actually coal played a no, not.
What is the blue one?
Blue one.
1973
1973. That's gas, basically.
Gas?
Yeah, gas.
No, 1973.
Here, this one.
This is gas?
Gas.
No, color is different.
Oh, this is oil.
No.
Oil.
No, not oil.
Oil. This is oil.
And the gas.
Gas is lighter. This is gas.
Hmm?
So this is oil.
Hmm.
So this is coal. It's coal, but you see, coal is growing again.
Oh, oil.
So coal was reduced, but coal is actually growing again. Gas has been steadily increasing, and oil has been steadily decreasing. The share of geothermal actually has been decreasing. Mainly,
by the way, this you showed is nuclear is more than 40% of total energy, right? 40%.
That's what they aim.
Aim?
Yeah, that's what they aim for. Nuclear is going to be reintroduced. That's TEPCO is still basing their plans on reintroducing nuclear
Actually, the
energy.
1915. But which percentage of they had nuclear power?
Zero.
No, 1915.
1915?
Nothing.
1915?
Was
there already nuclear power?
So before that,
1950?
Before disaster.
Before. That's was about 28.
28?
Yeah. 28% of nuclear power. So that's a lot. So that you see that the portfolio is changing away from hydroelectric, away from oil, more gas, nuclear, and a relatively small share for renewables.
In future, what happens? Is no nuclear plant?
No, actually, in the future they want to restart all the nuclear plants. So they want to reintroduce nuclear power. But actually, I will tell that later. But they also want to start more coal.
Coal?
Coal.
Why
So,
coal?
Coal, well, probably because it's an economically very viable way of generating electricity. But it's not very good if you think about your targets in terms of the climate agreement. I will show a video a bit later about this. So looking at the costs, see, coal is here, nuclear power is cheapest. Hydropower is most expensive. Oil, then LNG, then coal, and then nuclear power.
What light color means is maintenance cost? Light blue color means?
I'm not 100% sure.
That one is fuel cost, right?
Right, that's the fuel cost.
Maintenance cost, maybe. Right?
Doesn't say what it is. I know where I got it from.
Okay, okay.
Yeah.
Edo-san,
Hi.
Lifetime cost of the power plant.
Right.
Nuclear power plant has very expensive
decommissioning.
Yeah.
Exactly. Exactly. And this is not included in the models in Japan.
Yeah.
This is absolutely this is just fake accounting.
Yeah. That's the issue.
Yeah, exactly. So nuclear power is presented as this very cheap way of producing energy, but that's just an accounting issue. It's really ridiculous that still that they can get away with it.
We should calculate about the whole lifetime cost.
Exactly. Well, I 100% agree that it is ridiculous that you don't like in Japan we still do not put that into our numbers when we make these kinds of models. So it seems like nuclear power is such a enormous rational choice with very little CO2 effect on CO2, low costs per kilowatt, and so the rational choice, but actually it's not at all.
What kind of cost nuclear power plant we should add in more?
What kind of the decommissioning cost? Actually, to shut down and clean up everything after you're done producing.
Oh, shutdown cost.
Right, the shutdown costs are extremely high for nuclear power plants, but they don't put those shutdown costs into the cost of the energy they're producing. So what this means now, I remember again. Basically, this is the total cost to generate the power, and these are the input costs of those total costs. So it doesn't cost anything to run a hydropower plant, but the cost to generate the electricity costs 11.9 yen. If you want to run a oil-fired thermal power station, then you need to buy fuel. So the fuel costs are 7.2 yen. The total costs to generate 1 kilowatt hour is the fuel cost plus personnel plus maintenance and everything else. That comes to the total cost being 7.2 plus 3.5 is 10.7 yen per kilowatt hour. So this is what it is.
What does it consist of hydropower cost?
The plant, the maintenance of infrastructure, and
maintenance and operation.
Operation. But if you visit, I went to Krobeda. It looks like almost nobody is working there, and it looks like everything is very smooth and just running standalone. But maybe that's not entirely fair. I'm not sure whether the plant is still in operation, actually. So, I think this cost should be much higher. But the economics are very important to look at what is viable. So TEPCO and nuclear power. TEPCO had a net operating loss in 2011-2013, obviously because of the Fukushima disaster. But I looked at the annual report of 2016, and I saw that 2011-2013 it was running a loss, but after that it's become profitable again. According to their annual financial report in 2016, TEPCO received grants in aid for nuclear damage compensation and decommissioning of 700 billion yen per year from the government. They paid 679 billion for damage compensation. So in other words, the government is paying for compensation, not TEPCO.
How much in total they need to cover for this damage?
So they paid in 2016. They paid 679 billion for damage compensation. That's what they paid in that year, right?
But government pays 700?
Yes.
It means government paid
Everything.
them all?
Yes. You can just read it in their financial report. It's unbelievable.
Why government pays them all?
Well, I don't know, but so we pay for it, actually, the taxpayers.
Like Obama saved automobile manufacturing industry 2009.
Ah, right, with the. So basically, it's like 100% is being paid by the government, and that's how.
But I'm really skeptical. Just only paid 700 billion to fill in damage of all damage.
That's in 2016 alone. Eh?
Oh, 2016 alone.
Alone, yeah.
How about in total?
I don't know how much it has been in total.
But
It's a lot more. Yeah, a lot. So you can just look financial report TEPCO, then it comes up.
Only 2016, because otherwise they were going to be bankrupt. So government support that company, right? So before 2016, the TEPCO paid money.
Yeah, well, actually, it was a lot more in before that, 2016. Okay. Here we go. So we see that actually there's a positive operating income 2016, 2015, 2014, a loss in 2013, and a loss in 2012, 2011.
Well, we need to see the figures.
The figures.
Where's the loss?
So net income. Where did we have the special? Moment, where do we have them? Ah, here. Extraordinary income stood at 773 billion. And consisted mainly of grants in aid from the Nuclear Damage Compensation and Decommissioning Facilitation Corporation, totaling 700 billion, and gain of revision of the retirement benefit scheme of 61 billion. Extraordinary loss totaled 911.9 billion, due mainly to the payment of compensation for damage caused by nuclear accident, totaling 679 billion.
2016?
2016.
What happened before
that? Probably other years. I don't know whether I can find a total amount of that. That's not specified in their profit and loss statement. But I don't think many people are aware of the fact that the taxpayer is paying the entire damage compensation.
After 2017.
Right.
Okay.
Okay, TEPCO and renewable energy. Power generation using renewable energy sources such as wind and sunlight is important to Japan because it uses only domestically producible energy sources. It's also garnering attention as promising countermeasure to global warming because it releases no CO2 or other greenhouse gases in the power generation process. Although output is easily affected by the change in natural environment conditions, we are focusing on the advantages of renewable energy and are actively promoting its development and introducing, while also considering its economic performance. I would say that's a carefully optimistic assumption. Actually, this year, TEPCO is launching its spin-off company that's focusing solely on renewable energy. So they are focusing on smart grid technology, solar power energy, solar energy. I believe they currently employ about 25 people. That's it.
Only?
Yes. Jeffrey Chard is one of a guy that I know. He started work there.
Only 25 people.
Yeah. So that's. But I mean that depends on. Those are not the people who are putting these installations together, right? But they are the ones who need to make sure that this development will become to will get maturity inside Japan. The government. A recent report of a panel of experts at the MITI, Ministry of Industry and Trade, on long-term energy strategy towards 2050 calls for a policy shift towards making renewable energies such as solar and wind a major source of electricity, but fails to set any targets for their shares of the nation's power supply. Since Japan lags far behind the rest of the world in promoting renewables, the proposed policy should be promptly backed up by clear long-term goals and has a concrete roadmap for to put them into action. However, the combined share of renewable energy sources, including hydro, the nation's power supply, stood at 14.6% of 2015, compared to 26% in Britain, 30% in Germany, and 35% in Spain. So Europe is doing better, but
what percent is it?
The combined share of renewable energy sources.
Oh, so Japan, you want to say Japan is too low?
Yeah, Japan is behind other leaders in this field, but of course, it's not behind the United States. It's not behind the Netherlands. There are other countries that do not so much, but the big countries in Europe are doing more than Japan at the moment. Japan has fallen behind the global trend of lowering the cost of renewable energy. The average European cost of solar in 2016 was 10 yen per kilowatt hour of electricity. The figure is 20 yen in Japan. It's twice
Why
as
is Japan
expensive.
so expensive for solar?
I think it has to do a lot with the scale. I was very surprised.
Scale.
Yeah, the scale. I was very surprised to learn that there's such a little capacity for solar power in the general household who has actually adopted this solar energy.
Okay, just a couple minutes. I'm going to try to recording again.
Right.
Otherwise, too long. 2 hours.